Where you going with this? Who you controlling with this? You think you got some nerve? Boy, say word. Cause I'm flowing with this. I think I'm growing with this. I think you knowing with this. I'm gonna show 'em with this. Hey, you guys, it's your girl Taisha P back at you again with another podcast episode of Trusted Transformation Station. And here at Trusted Transformation, we believe that every day is an opportunity for evolution. This is a place for creatives who are becoming to feel seen every step of the way along their journey. Now that we've got the formalities out of the way, I want to say, first of all, a lovely good morning to you all. I'm recording this right now as I am starting my work day, and what came to me as I'm working, as I'm in the zone right now, entering my zone of genius, as they say, when it comes to operating at high level while working, it came to me that champions adjust. And I said that phrase to a friend the other day. We were supposed to go to an industry event, and she ended up having work. And I was like, man, randomly, as we've already been planning, we've already said, yeah, we're going. It was supposed to be three of us. We're all getting ready, getting dressed. And she gets a notification on her phone that she has work. I guess it was just an oversight that she didn't prepare for ahead of time, and then just so happened now to be like, man, I got work. So initially I was like, man, really wanted to go to this event. This kind of sucks, but it is what it is. What am I going to do? So when she told us, I initially said, it's all good. Champions adjust. And me and my other friend that was going to come with us, she didn't have work as well. So we just ended up doing something as an alternative. But the reason this story, I'm even sharing this, I thought about on a greater perspective of where my life is currently and what's important to me at this stage in my life. And I realized that the only thing that is constant in life, in fact, is change. And beyond change being the only constant, people that perform at their greatest, people that perform at their highest, people that understand that things will always be shifting and transforming and moving, don't get deeply attached to anything that they cannot control. Now, granted, the exception of this are people and relationships, and obviously things that will have an emotional impact on you because of your relationship to that thing. But in the greater perspective, not attaching your moment, your takeoff point, your new beginning, it doesn't have to start with a particular opportunity. A lot of times we as creatives, and this is me speaking for myself, but this is not only just creatives. I feel like this is just people in general that may be dreamers, and dreamers many times are creatives. But when I say dreamers, I mean people with a lofty vision, so they feel that seems almost impossible because of where they're at. And they have a tendency to minimize the dream by saying it's impossible because of who I am, or I have to be in this room in order to get this result. And granted, I do feel like within the framework of putting yourself out there, expanding your reach, increasing your visibility, growing, monetizing, making your dream life a reality, you do have to put yourself out there. You do have to let people know who you are. You do have to say hello. You do have to smile. You do have to say, how do you do? You do have to present yourself in a way where you can be received. That is something that cannot be skipped over the process. You cannot just automatically assume everybody's going to know you, everybody's going to have some attachment to what you've done and who you are and what you have to offer, and think that that's it. That's not real. And bigger than that not being real, you cannot have such an inflated sense of self to think that people are just going to find you like a needle in a haystack and that's going to be your big break moment. It has to be you putting yourself out there, of course. But one thing that I can be real about that I also saw within the same framework of how I was thinking about this Champion the Just, I realized that the event that I was going to go to, it's connected to a social media platform that I'm not as active on. And I'm not as active as I even should be on here on YouTube. So imagine me going to an event where it's kind of like I'm a ghost on this platform, but I'm showing up to receive all the goods. And having the situation fall through that I didn't end up going, to me, it was almost like God was telling me that this would have been a great opportunity for you, but you would have went there feeling uncomfortable. You would have went there feeling out of place, out of touch, and you would have went there feeling like you didn't deserve to be there simply because you don't engage with the platform like that, but you do have knowledge of it and you are attempting to expand your reach on there, but you haven't done it in a way where somebody can see the value right now just by looking at what you're doing. And having that shift in perspective for me where I was like, okay, I need to stop just thinking that I can show up however I want, essentially. That's where now the shift is for me on the Champions Adjust. And I'm realizing that showing up is not enough. And showing up and saying who you are isn't enough either. You have to communicate value when you show up. And if you aren't communicating value, you have to now make that shift to where that is what you're doing early and often so that people can receive what you have to give. Because a lot of times we just want to show up giving people what we want, and that is not what gets you ahead. That is not what takes you to the next level. I think that many people have a tendency to say, take me as I am. And when you don't, or when you're hesitant, they're upset, but they're not communicating why they should be taken. They're not communicating why they should be listened to. They're not communicating why they should be respected. And one thing I realized with myself is that I want respect for sure, but I also want to be able to be in a place where I don't have to consistently explain who I am. I want that what I do, how I show up, what I've produced and showcased and have developed case studies and examples to prove that this is in fact the deal. I want those things to be the effortless expression of who I am at this point. I'm making an internal decision to adjust as the champion that I am, to recognize that what I've been doing so far does not work. Take a breath. what I've been doing so far does not work. And not that it doesn't work entirely, because clearly I have seen results. Clearly I have seen progress. Clearly I have seen forward movement in certain areas. But when I say it does not work, meaning the result that I'm looking for, I'm practically taking baby steps or crawling. I'm not walking, I'm not running, I'm not sprinting, I'm not jumping, I'm not doing all that I can do to position myself in the ways that's going to take me to a level that I can see and feel and understand the fruits of my labor and be proud in ways where I don't have to sit here and explain myself in a way that it's almost like when you start talking more than the doing. And for instance, when it comes to YouTube, I've been wanting to do YouTube for years. 4 years. Since I was a little girl, I was on YouTube just watching people post the most randomness of things. And I was sitting there laughing, kikiing, all of that. And I always felt innately that this was something that I could stick my head in and do it and just have fun with it. And people will listen to me rant and ramble and share my gifts, skills, and talents, and see how that just naturally shapes my life. And I've been hesitant towards taking that route, not because I felt like it wasn't something I could do, but because that analysis paralysis that eventually just keeps you from doing nothing. And then that turned into every platform where I had a little thing going on Instagram. And Instagram to me is just like the wasteland now. So I don't even care about Instagram, just being real. But I wanted to put my message out there. And for whatever reason, that just hesitancy. And you see, I do it and then I retreat and I do it and I retreat. I do it and I retreat. And I'm tired of retreating from what I innately feel called to do. I watched one of my favorite YouTubers recently, and he was talking about how many times the people that God called are the most hesitant to do it. And it's not because they're not deserving, and it's not because they don't have the value or the skills or anything, but it's simply because they're so in their head and not in their body. And they need to just understand that God wouldn't give you the vision, God wouldn't give you the tools, God wouldn't give you the ideas if you weren't equipped. And I I I feel like this is something that obviously I deal with, but many other people are dealing with. That you're great in one area, but you're still finding your footing in the spaces where you really want to be, where you really want to go. And for me, I just want to encourage anyone that listens to this here to understand that you are capable of being exactly who you desire to be. You are capable of adjusting into every single room that God calls you to. And you are capable of living a life that feels natural, authentic, and aligned to who you are. So many people have been filtering their selves. So many people have been holding back themselves. So many people have been second guessing who God has called them to be. And it's unfortunate because I see myself in that 1,000%. And I never want to be someone that has the gifts, talents, and skills, but nobody knows me. Nobody has an idea who I am. And then when I step into the room, because I have the mental capability to showcase my value, but I'm not actually doing it, I feel like an imposter. I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel like everybody's looking at me weird. I feel like everybody's like, what is she doing here? How did she find out about this? What is her connection? I don't want that anymore for my life. I want when I step into rooms, it's like, I've arrived. Thank you. Where's the champagne? Where's the caviar? Where's the steak and lobster? I've been waiting. Obviously, I'm being extra, but this is the experience that I want to start having because I know that I've been putting in the work. And I know that when you put in the work, when you put in the value, when you put in the effort to show who you are and what you have offer, there is someone out there that is waiting and ready and looking for you. And when you are basically hiding in the shadows because you're afraid of what somebody may say, or people hating, or nobody supporting you that knows you, and all of this good stuff, that's when you're starting to hold yourself back. A big reason I used to hold myself back was the fact that I felt like I wasn't getting the support in the way that I wanted. And one thing God has shown me a while back, and honestly, that's why at this point, I don't sit here and say, oh, it's about the people around me, because it's not. God has showed me that nobody I know in a real way has given me any opportunities. Nobody that I know has given me any situation where they have expanded my life in the ways that I desire, professionally or otherwise. And when I say nobody, I'm not in the saying so much in the literal sense, but I mean opportunities that have expanded my reach, opportunities that have expanded my bank account, opportunities that have expanded my goals and dreams and has positioned me to be in a different type of situation. I have not experienced that from people that I know. I have not been in a situation to say, okay, this is an opportunity my such and such has given me. I've never experienced that. So I don't really even look anymore to friends and family to support me. Not saying that they don't, because I have people that really are on my side, that love me and that want to see me win. So I'm not going to sit here and act as if, oh, nobody's ever given me any support. That is not true. But what I'm more so getting at is Don't sit here and look to your grandmother and your uncle and your bestie and your daddy and everybody to be the battery in your back. You need to be the battery in your own back and adjust when you need to adjust. You need to be the battery in your own back and understand the value that you give to spaces and places and take action when need be. So many people want somebody to be the, hey, yeah, woo, the applause in the audience. When a lot of times, for instance, I realize with my gifts and skill set, my community isn't my audience right now. My community doesn't see necessarily always the value right now in what I do. And not because it's not valuable, it just doesn't expand them necessarily. So you can't you can't always look to the people around you or your environment to be what you need to take you to the next level. You have to take yourself many times to the next level. You have to show up as the person that feels deserving of being in the rooms. You need to be the person that feels like I was always meant to be here. And when you feel like, hey, I was always meant to be here, then you already understand that positioning yourself is a non negotiable on the journey to living a life full of value, living a life full of freedom, living a life full of expansion, and living a life full of winning. Because champions adjust. Champions recognize where they're not doing enough and where they need to do more. Champions recognize when they've been slacking on their dreams and say, hey, if you're really trying to be on one, you got to do more than this. Champions recognize, hey, there's been opportunities here that I've been overlooking simply because I'm psyching myself out and I'm not giving myself a chance to shine. And I'm not giving myself a chance to expand because I think expansion requires me to be rich. I think expansion requires me to be some other thing other than myself. Whereas, no, the real tea is you should be acting as yourself. The only thing is, bigger than this acting as yourself, you need to act as if somebody that understands that you've been here before. You've done this. The reason why you feel inclined to do this is because innately there is something within you that knows that you are deserving. You don't just wake up and become a boss or the president or the director of a company or a big team or a millionaire. You don't just become that the day it actually happens. You've already started to operate at that level. You already started to operate at that pace at which a person on that level would behave. You don't just become that because you say, I want it. You become that by taking the action that requires you to stand in that position with authority and to stand in that position with confidence where you're not overthinking yourself. You're not in your head. You're not feeling like I don't belong. Many times that is what I've done. And I realized it's not that I didn't belong. It's that I didn't give myself the opportunity to feel like I belonged, and to feel like I deserved it, and to feel like I was worthy. And now that I understand that feeling worthy is not something that happens just because you are in the room, it happens before you get there. You have already adjusted your mindset, and you've already adjusted your way of being to show up as that person that feels deserving, that feels ready, that feels like, okay, we've done what we needed to do before it's been solidified. But now that we're in the room, this is the confirmation. Me being here is the confirmation. That's a different level. When you could say you being here is the confirmation. So I want to say to all my creatives, all my dreamers, all my doers, all my visionaries, all my expansionists. I'm over here making up words. I don't even know if expansionist is a word, but I love that right now. All my peoples listening to me at the sound of my voice, you have what it takes to thrive, shine, and succeed in any room, in any space, and in any environment. So stop closing yourself off to it when God has literally given you the authority and the power, the skills, the know-how, the knowledge, the vision, the tools, the resources, the understanding, the wisdom, the intelligence. You have all that you need. And in fact, you probably have more than enough. This is time. This is the time to not only take it up another notch, but to know that you're here for a reason. You've been here. You deserve to be here. So that's all I'm going to leave y'all with. Thank you so much for listening to me rant and rave today. Champions adjust. So if there's something that you need to adjust in your life right now as the champion that you are, take that step and let God work and let God move, because something beautiful is on the horizon for you once you make that slow but sure step, that aligned change, that movement that says to you, you are more than enough. So I just want to thank you for tuning in today to Trust the Transformation. This your girl Taisha P. Signing out. Later, y'all.